thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here. Enid, our chair, Enid Bull, and our video guy, Daryl Foster, suggested that our years at the Colquitt's telephone office would be interesting to people. And I was really quite reluctant at the idea that we could put together a video that would keep anyone entranced in what we were doing there. But I realized that the telephone system in that day was really a very important part of our history, and that it should be recorded, how it worked, how quaint it was, and how many people here will probably remember, hopefully, their phone numbers and what their ring is after they were assigned a number. Mm-hmm. I made contact with some other operators, and I expected that Lorraine Hilton McCoy would be here, but unfortunately, I think she's waiting for knee surgery, and she may have had a really bad day today because she wasn't able to show up. Though Lorraine didn't go to Royal Oak, she was very active in Colquitt's and remained in the telephone service, I think, for quite a few years. So this is what we're going to talk about. It really are all the remember whens that we have all shared. And we've got some notes here that we're going to follow as well, because I remember very little. That I don't if I don't write it down, I lose it. But remember when the ringing of your phone just would stop you dead in your tracks. And could it be for you? Perhaps it was the party line, or even worse, it could be ringing for the other 7 people on the party line. Do you remember that? 8 people on the party line? So for whom does the bell toll? Well, it certainly wouldn't be a mechanical voice telling you that you had just won a Mediterranean cruise, I can tell you. My sister, Grace, and my friend Lorraine are pleased to pass on some information, some of the real secrets that really went on in that humble little telephone office on Wilkinson Road. We passed the office today as we came along the highway. We had to come down from Shawnigan. And Peter Goddard produced this from his files. And this was the old telephone office here. Mm-hmm. And it was right on the corner of Dunsterville and Wilkinson Road. But as we passed it today, it looked so ugly and forlorn because someone has built a flat wall in front to box in that whole area, so it has no porch. So it's just quite surrounded by very modern dated homes, this wretched little building where we spent so many years of our lives. And so before we reveal any of the juicy stuff, we're going to look at the history of the Colquitt's Telephone Company office. And there were 2 other systems as well that operated. One was at Keating's, and the other was at Gordon Head. They were a magneto system, which I'll explain to you. Now, the Colquitt's office, it served Royal Oak, Elk Lake, Cadover Bay, Marigold, and the Burnside-Wilkinson area. And back in those years, a Scottish lady, Mrs. Barr, and her 2 daughters, Hannah, and we don't recall Hannah's sister's name, they were the first occupants. Hannah was named as the chief operator. So that was in 1916. So in the coming year, we'll be marking 100 years since the office opened at that time. And it was built as a family home in the back, and then the office, the switchboard system, and the public office was right across the front. So the wiring system was based on magnetos and batteries carrying the signals. When we worked there in the late 40s, there were 6 boards. So you could switch 2 boards together to give you 30 sets of cords. When a customer cranked the handle of their telephone, it activated a metal drop down, and the operator would immediately plug into the hole above the metal tab. She would then push a lever back here and say, "Number, please." And when the customer replied with the number she wanted, the operator would then push the plug back in the opposite direction and then buzz the particular letter of the alphabet. So if your phone was, say, 50B, it would be 1 long and 3 shorts. Now, 50B could be a line of 8, so you can imagine if you didn't do it correctly and have space between it, that's when everyone else would grab the line, and suddenly you'd be confronted with 8 angry people. When the customer replied with the number she wanted, the operator would push her plug in. And party lines were not private. It was possible to listen in on a party line by anyone else on the same line. We could all listen in. The operator could listen in as well by putting the lever in neutral position. Isn't that how that worked? So heaven help anyone who was caught by Miss Hannah Barr or Miss Alvaretta McNutt in neutral position. Obviously, we're entranced listening to what's going on this particular line. So I'm not going to mention too much about what we remembered. We had a few things figured out very quickly, despite our young ages. So,
I can remember not too much, but I'll do my best.
Okay, Grace is going to take a few lines here.
Okay, now, can anybody remember their phone numbers and the code ring?
24R, 2 long rings.
Okay, Peter says 24R, 2 long rings. Good for you. What about you, Fred?
I think ours was 2 shorts and a long, but that sticks in my memory. But
Have you got the number? No. 2 shorts and a long. Yeah.
Ours was 271R.
271R. Would that and what?
But I can't remember.
You can't remember the ring. Yeah.
Ours was 90B and it's a long and 2 short. 90B.
90B, and it was a long and 2 shorts. See, I said a long and 3 shorts.
And my
Good for you.
grandfather's 90T and it was a long and, or it was
T-
3 long. I'm not sure if it was 3 long or 3 short.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you remember any of those conversations?
Heather,
169W,
169W.
Oh,
2 longs and a short.
Ours was called.
2 long.
yeah, a private
Yeah.
phone.
We had a private phone.
Do you remember any of
There
those
was a-
conversations, Morgan?
No, there was a reason we had a private phone, I can tell you. Oh, dear.
Okay, so
Anyone
anyways,
else? Did we miss anyone else remembering their number? 44Y.
Right across from the butchers, and Donna Butchers was 440.
Okay. Can you remember your buzz?
I thought it was 2 longs and a shorts, but somebody's already taken that. 61T, and I think it was 2 long
2 long
and 1 short.
and 1 short. Yeah.
long distance calls were a different matter. It didn't require a number being rung. The operator would write out a ticket for the destination, such as Victoria. The night shift operator had to count out and bundle these tickets for the chief operator to mail to Victoria every day. What was the cost of a phone call to Victoria? Does anybody remember? How much?
Yeah.
10 cents to Victoria and 15 cents to Sydney.
Oh.
That
And you know,
seems
every now and
unfair.
again, this woman would call New York, and we all got so excited. New York! You know, that was another world away. Of course, we never listened in on those. Anyways, we had these shifts, and sometimes we had to work the afternoon shift, which was 3 to 11:30, and then walk home in the dark, which was a mile, would you say?
At least a mile
A
from.
mile, and there was no street lights. And we had to walk past the mental hospital. What was it called?
The provincial mental home.
Provincial mental home. And, you know, we always had fear because we never knew, you know, if somebody might break out. We'd
Yeah.
be the victim. So anyways, we'd half walk, we'd half run, and then we'd have to walk past forests. And then, remember that creek?
Yeah.
That used to go through there, you hear that creek.
Near the United Church on Wilkinson Road.
Yeah.
Running through that forest.
Yeah.
It wasn't developed as it is now.
Well, the road was there, but it was all the trees were right next to the road. So
There was
you never
no
knew
lights
what
at
was
all.
going to come out of there, you know. Oh, we were so glad to get home.
Well, we were alone.
Oh, yeah.
Like one of us would
Yeah.
leave at the end of the 11 o'clock shift, and you have to run home, to run a mile
Yeah, well,
through there in the dark with no lights, and
no lights, there
flashlight
wasn't
or
a light
anything.
anywhere, you know, and everybody went to bed early, so there was no house lights or.
And do you
or
remember
anything.
when it got really hot and it was a full moon in the summer and it was
dogs
11
were
o'clock?
howling?
Well, no, but in the mental home, some of the people would howl as well, so that as you were running by, you heard these howls as well. It was absolutely frightening for us.
Yeah.
And no one ever picked us up. I mean, in those days, and even if you
no.
at night, you aren't going to climb into
Well, I don't
some...
think there was any cars
there
that
was-
went by.
No, I think...
No, because it was late, you know.
Mental home.
It's the provincial mental home is on Wilkinson Road, about a mile and a half from the big intersection at Royal Oak. And it's the jail. It's now
Yeah,
the
now it's the
medium,
jail.
what is it, Fred, a medium security jail? Yeah, Fred was telling us, for the sake of the microphone picking up the voice, that it was called the Wilkinson Road Jail. It is presently. And it's for people who are on 2 years or less.
2 years of the
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
or,
So they're not really that dangerous.
to go in.
Yeah, well, that's what we walked by at night.
Yeah, Fred is telling us that his wife was a psychiatric nurse?
Probation officer.
Probation officer. And at that time, the jail was a very eerie place to go into. Yeah, it's still, when I go by and I think of our memories as kids, these days, women would not be released at 11 o'clock at night from their job site and run a mile through essentially a forest with the occasional building to get home. You had to go up past Nurseries, Fingerbirds on the other side, and finally another quarter of a mile off the road to get
And
home.
there were scary people that lived in some of those houses too, wasn't there?
There were.
Anyways, can anybody remember the Saanich Police emergency number? Say that's in the late 40s, early 50s? No. Well, it was 195.
Yeah. Does anyone remember the Saanich Fire Department number? No. Now, what Grace and I are going to try and do is to remember some of the people that worked there. I'm sure that it would be nice to have their names recorded on this video as
Yeah,
well.
I remember them.
So there was Lorraine Hartley, Doreen Buckingham. Her nickname was Babe. She lived right near the phone office, and I think she spent her entire career in the telephone company. Alberetta McNutt, and Alberetta was the girlfriend of the lineman who was Brady Robinson. Mrs. Hine, we never called them by first names. I was going to say Mrs. Hine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, Jane Hine, and she lived in the Interurban Road.
Yeah.
Verna Reed, Hannah Barr, of course, Yvonne Richardson.
Did anybody recognize anybody?
Anyone recognize the
Their
names? Anna Jowett, Jowett, Joan Johnson, and Kay Smith, and
Marjorie Foster.
Marjorie
That was
Foster.
your aunt?
yeah, that
Yeah.
was Daryl's aunt was a great character at the telephone
was.
office. She always had some acerbic comments to make about our training as telephone operators. However, we got through that. Cadover Bay is the area where there seem to be more 8-party lines than in any other area of the Colquitt's Exchange. My recollection is that they, in Cadbury Bay, they acted differently on the phone for people in the other districts for some reason. Well, I think one of the dilemmas was that the Cadbury Bay people didn't trust the operator to ring the codes correctly. And almost every line out there was 8 people on it. You can imagine what would happen. The result was that up to 8 people on the line, they might answer the phone all at the same time. And you, as an operator, when you rang it, you had to stay and wait until it was properly answered. So you were dealing with people. No, not you, madam. No. Well, are you sure it's not for me? I've been waiting for a call all day long. You're absolutely sure, operator, that it's for B on the line. I think it's R. Or they would get into a bit of shouting match between the neighbors as well. Get off the line because I'm expecting a long distance call. So it used to be a shouting match. There was a lot of antagonism with 8 people on a line. And so you'd have one neighbor yelling at the others to hang up. And then I remember one nasty remark about some Brit in the background on the line saying, "Get off the bloody line." So we had all these calls coming through, and we were required to monitor our boards constantly. So you are going in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Are you waiting? Are you through? Are you waiting? Are you through? And if you really think about it, I mean, it's pretty weird. Well, how are you going to answer, "Are you waiting? Are you through?" So if someone, I would go on the line that seemed to be dead. I'd say, "Are you waiting?" "Yes, I'm waiting." Who are you waiting for, madam?" "I'm waiting for you." "Because no one's answered, and I want you to ring it again." "Oh, all right." Then I would say, "Are you through?" "Yes, I'm through. Yes, I got through. Get off the line." And then you go onto the line, it's silent. "You waiting? You through?" "Well, yes, I'm waiting, but not for you. I'm waiting for my friend. She had to go to the bathroom." "Don't pull out the plug, operator." So you'd go through this kind of insanity as you worked up and down the board, because the phrase, "Are you waiting? Are you through?" was such an ambiguous sound that no one knew how to answer us, and we didn't know what to expect from them, because you always have to explain what you meant by through. Through what? Waiting for who? So anyways, I promised them I'd do a bit of a Lily Tomlin skit. I think that was it. So they were tough times for young people in the mid-40s, especially because the war was over and ex-service people were suddenly available to fill the job market. So being approved for a job at the BC Tel Company, it was really a fortunate opportunity. I remember my late husband, Bob Ostler, had been a squadron leader in the RAF and much decorated and led a rather grand life, as well as terrible circumstances going out into on the bobbing runs. But when he came back from overseas, he did get a job in desperation, but it was a BC Tel job, and he had to dig post holes on the Malahat, and the crew did it by hand. And they would leave the Victoria office, the guys that got hard, they lay on the back of the flat deck truck. They didn't even have safety belts. And they'd leave and take the crew up the Malahat, and they'd dig manually. Unbelievable. That's how desperate people were for jobs, because there was the market was flooded with young people who had served overseas and were back looking for an opportunity. So it was tough times. So to even get a job like this was absolutely wonderful. By the way, I'll just add this because so many people remember the Ostler family in Victoria. My husband went on to be the general manager of computers and communications for all of British Columbia, so he worked his way up from digging post holes. But he was much loved by the company because he had been a working staff. He wasn't a university guy who got in with a degree. He just had to work his way up, and we were all very proud of him. So Grace and I, we think our starting wage, just to start through, you had to qualify. So I think you got 6 months or so before you got the big raise. So it would be $80 a month. And both of us gave half our wage to our father, $40 each. Well, that was a huge impact on our family resources, as our father's Indian Army pension was less than 100, and there was no old age pension until the 50s. Was it when they brought it in? Was it in the 50s? $25 a month or something? So at least we didn't have to sell any more Persian rugs or Chippendale chairs in order to pay our account up at Pethick's grocery store. I used to hear, "Oh my God, the bill's rising at Pethick's grocery store." Well, when Dad came from India, we had 36 Persian rugs, and by the time he died, we were down to, what, 6 or 8?
Well, I had one.
I got one.
Yeah.
You got one. How many of you got in your mansion? Oh, that's our sister Sheila at Frashon again. They were asking that question too. Well, in 1951, I signed up for the RCAF, and that was during the Korean War period. That was far more exciting than saying number please all day. So, Grace, what happened to you after you left Colquitt's? Don't you remember,
Okay.
Grace?
I do, of course I remember, but you've got everything.
What did you do
corrected.
after
It's
you
not
left the
written
phone
down
company?
properly. Well, anyways, you were stationed in
Sea Island.
Sea Island, and you got me a job there working for the Air Force as a switchboard operator.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
So she was back saying number please.
Yeah, I was back saying number please. And that was the busiest switchboard in Canada, I think. Or was it the world? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there for about 5 years till they fired me.
And then she got a job running the elevator at Vancouver Sun Building.
Yeah, well, I went there to try and get a switchboard job. They said, well, we'll put you on the elevator. Well, after about 25 years, I figured, well, I don't think I'm going to get that switchboard job, so I better quit. Well, it wasn't quite 25. I think it was 5.
So the years of the old magneto board serving the needs of Colquitt subscribers was winding to an end. New technology was being developed in Victoria, and by 1954, the old building on Wilkinson Road, sorry, that's a 1964. The old building on Wilkinson Road closed its doors, and all the staff were offered jobs in the Victoria office. So Lorraine Hilton, who we had hoped would be with us, she went on to work in the telephone office in Victoria, and other than a few years in the service with the RCAF, as I had done, she went back to BC Tel, and that was her work for her lifetime. And she's remembered a great deal about it and always enjoyed herself. Working for BC Tel was a great company. It was very supportive. Many generations of people all worked for the company. So, considering all these stories that I'm talking about, and Grace is as well, we're beginning to think that the remember whens that sometimes we think, oh yeah, but really they were good old days, especially regarding the phone system. I remember the thrill of when someone in the house picked up the phone and yelled, "It's for you." Well, this could be followed with, who would be calling me? Oh my gosh, there must have been an accident. Someone's been hurt. So, speak up, please. You what? You want me to wire you some money? We students calling home for money. Yeah. Well, our amazing new technology that we have now, we still don't wait with anticipation for a phone call because we've all got Facebook. Who knew we'd get 350 new friends on the web in no time at all? The best part is we learn so much about them each time we flip on our computer. Why make a phone call? Their whole life story is on the screen. Recently, I sat down in a restaurant to have lunch. Directly across from me was a table that seated 8. There were 4 fellows on one side and 4 young women on the other. Not a word passed between them. They all had their iPhones open in front of them, and they were all texting intensely. It seemed mysterious, and what on earth was going on? I wonder if they're texting each other rather than speak out. Mm-hmm. Which someone said, yes, they probably were. I thought, well, that sure beats having to talk to each other. So our quaint little magneto phone system has gone the way of the dodo. Mm-hmm. But when you look back at our innocence and our anticipation over the ringing of a phone number, well, they really were the good old days. So thank you very much for listening to our presentation.
Thank you.
Sure I will.
Yeah.
We're going to take questions. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Grace was reminded me about the souk operator. There was only one woman out
This
there
woman,
ran
she
the
had
switchboard.
this really deep voice, and we'd phone and say, just a minute, I'm just making a pot of soup. I have to stir it. We said, well, oh, what kind this week? Oh, pea soup. Yeah, a big pot of pea soup. So she had to stir it, then she came back on again. She just ran it by herself.
Yes, Fred.
Did you ever have any ethical issues or training over what you might have happened to hear as to whether it should be passed on to the police or anything else like that? Did you have any instructions in that respect?
Well, that was interesting that Fred's asking if we had any issues over the ethical question of what we'd overheard, which may be appropriately passed on to the police or to the fire department, etc. I don't think so. I think it was pretty innocent times.
Yeah,
You
maybe
know-
Ann Landers.
Yeah, maybe Ann Landers,
Yeah.
would be more appropriate
Yeah.
to check in with her
Yeah.
on what went on. You know, we used to be aware of the wife being alone, or after the husband had got off to work, suddenly the phone would ring and someone who sounded like a radio announcer would be talking. Hello, how are you?
Is it gone?
Yeah, is it gone?
So
Yeah.
my next question was,
Pat, pat, pat.
did you have certain numbers that you inadvertently would find yourself listening to?
Well, oh, Fred. Yeah. If Miss Barr was walking up and down behind us,
Yeah, we
Miss
had to be-
Hannah
yeah.
Barr, we wouldn't dare hover over any switch at all unless there was a conversation moving back and forth between us and the subscriber. Me with the open, the switch was neutral, so forward would ring, back you would speak. And so if she saw neutral, that meant that we could hear the person speaking, but they couldn't hear us as an operator, so that we could continue to talk to other people and then keep our eye on that, because sometimes there'd be something going on there that we needed to stay on for. And mostly it was connections that got broken or people hung up mistakenly or something along that line. But it was a really good education on human beings and our frailties.
Did you hear stories from other exchanges? Not anything that you did, you could pass out?
No.
No, I don't think
No,
so.
we never, it was an insular world of living in Colquitt's, living in that area and working there. It was just a little world where we never met other operators. I mean,
No,
we'd
we
be
didn't
so
either.
intimidated by
Yeah.
meeting an operator of Victoria that I don't
Yeah.
think we'd even
The
call.
big city.
Yeah, we were only 17 or 18, weren't we?
When we first
Yeah.
started, I think 15.
I don't think you could work at 15.
Yes.
I think I finished
Yes,
grade.
I
Did you?
did.
Did you get in?
Yeah.
Or you must have lied.
Me? No, I was 15.
Yeah. And I had finished grade 10, so I was 16.
Yeah, I had finished grade 10.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
again.
thank you for
it was
listening.
fun.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
fun.
it was fun for us to do the research and
Well, I didn't
to
do
kind
it.
of pull all this stuff out and remember exactly. It's an awfully long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't when you're that young, you don't really value how what an amazing experience it is, and how fortunate we were to have jobs, and how much fun we were having. It was just fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, we were all the same age, around
Yeah.
the same age.
Yeah, we were
So
just
it was-
hoping some
and we were
boy.
friends.
Yeah, like some boy, like Chuck Ricky, that big dump truck, he'd go by, and if he saw us that we needed a ride, he'd drive us home, and he'd bring
Where
the big
was he
truck
at
up,
night?
and we had a long driveway up to the house, and then a circular driveway in the house itself, and Dad would be out on that, working would be maybe in the garden. He'd say, "Oh," he'd walk up to the young man and say, "Oh, what's your name or address?" And of course, the guy who was driving the truck would be so frightened. He wouldn't be able to answer. So we'd go in the house, and then my father would say, "Oh, that was an awfully stupid young man you were out with. Didn't know his name or address." That's the truth. That's the truth. Sometimes I used to change my hairdo. Or we like to look like the Andrews sisters, because we had our hair piled up like that. So I came in one day, my father's in his armchair and he's got his pipe. I come in the kitchen, he leaps to attention and says, "Oh, hello, good evening. Have you met my wife?" It was a bizarre world we were raised in.
Everybody wants
Yeah,
to
yeah, Grant. Is that you, Grant?
Was the Colquitt's Exchange, it wasn't the only one on the Saanich Peninsula, was it? There was
Yeah, there was, no, that's right, there was Keating's
Keating's, yeah.
and then Gordon Head.
What about Albion?
In Belmont.
Yeah, but these are the two offices that were operating on magneto boards, Keating and Gordon Head. But the others had a different electronic system.
Was the downtown exchange, was that what they call an automatic exchange? Or did they have operators too?
They had operators.
The whole-
Oh, yeah,
The whole city?
yeah.
It was called all in that.
Yeah, if we wanted to if our subscriber wanted to go through to Victoria, we'd ring a Victoria slot and an operator would come in. And then we'd write down the phone number. That was how Colquitt's made some money, from bundling all these long-distance calls, 10 or 15 cents a call. But in those days, it was
But it
probably,
all BC Tel, wasn't
it was all BC Tel. Mm-hmm.
Did you get a Christmas bonus for that money or something?
Do you remember? Oh, parties. They
Well,
were
we had a
very nice
party,
to us.
yeah.
Dinner parties and
I don't
things.
think we got any extra money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a very warm, supportive place to work. Yeah, it was really lots of fun, and we kept contact.
But there's never more than 3 people in the building at one time.
Well, yeah, there
Yeah,
would
more
be.
than that. There was six
Yeah,
switchboards.
if you look at the
How many
here,
was
you'll
there?
see on
Oh,
here. There's Hannah, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, that's what I
Six
figured,
boards
When it
across
closed,
the
there
back.
were 8 boards.
Hmm?
When it closed, there were 8 boards in the office.
Oh,
You're here. Well, here's Lorraine now.
oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe you could recall a few things.
You know, we were thinking of the
Yeah.
names of people that worked there.
Oh,
And we've done, like Mrs. Jowett, Mrs. Hines, Marjorie Foster,
Alfred and Dunn,
at Velvet.
Yeah, we did that one.
Doreen at Buckingham at the time.
Yeah.
Evie Patterson,
Oh, I forgot Evie Patterson.
Evie Jorgensen at the time, I think,
Yeah, Evie Jorgensen.
and Joan Johnson.
Yeah, that was my friend.
Mildred Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How many were on staff at the Colquitts? Was it 24 or so? On the all those different shifts?
Well, we had one night operator who was.
Mrs. Long.
And then she had her lead person who was, I forget her name offhand, probably in here somewhere.
Yeah.
And the rest of us worked the 7 till 3 and 3 to 11, and then there was the other broken shifts, which were 9 to 12
Yeah, yeah.
and 3 to 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it was.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. So we've
Yeah,
done our
thank you.
presentation, Lorraine.
That's good, that's fine.
Yeah.
I somehow got followed up on the date, and I was out doing some errands and.
Oh, that's
home and-
that's where you were, because it kept pulling.
The first year I was there, at Christmas time, we had 4 boards at that time, and you could turn those boards together, eh? So you could operate the 30 sets of cords.
Yeah.
Because each board had 15, so it's 30 and 30, 60 sets of cords you could operate by turning those 2 boards together. By turning 2 boards together. Well, anyway, I got left on the switchboard at Christmas time by myself.
They all took off.
Well, that's the way they scheduled it, eh?
Yeah.
And looking back, they should have known better than to ever put a trainee, well, a young one that's just started. I've only been there since August. And anyway, I'm on the switchboard and all these drops, and it just got out of hand. So I pulled every plug there was out, pushed all the little drops back up, and then I'd just been cut off. Oh, I'm sorry, and who were you talking?
Start them all again, eh?
Started them all again.
One last question. Did
Yes.
you have mechanical breakdowns or electrical issues with all these panels and stuff, or not?
Not that I can recall,
I don't
but we
recall
had
that, no.
Frank Hurley and
He was the janitor
Robbie-
for the building.
yeah, the janitor
And
would be
Robbie
there.
Robertson was the repairman.
Yeah, and they were always on hand. I don't recall ever that the
Well,
boards
that came
shut
after
down.
Robbie Robertson.
Yeah, I don't think the board.
See, they were run on batteries,
Yeah.
so they were pretty self-sufficient.
yeah.
It wasn't run on electricity, it was run on whatever well, it was an electricity that was generated from the batteries, the big generators behind,
Oh,
yeah. Those kinds of little details can be quite important to someone, some researcher 100 years from now who's looking up this system that we used to have. Well, 100 years from now, they're probably, well, even presently, you could store all your information up in some cloud. It really seems quaint already when you think where we've come in 80 years.